Hello, everybody, and welcome into the show before the show, the official podcast of Minor League Baseball. I am Sam Dykstra, introing this week's episode as Tyler Mon is out. I am joined on my right by eminent Minor League Baseball business writer and reporter Benjamin Hill. Ben, how are you?
Doing well. Business and culture.
Business and culture.
I emphasize the culture. I mean, what do I really know about business? ROIs, not much.
Every day I'm looking over you. You got spreadsheets just all over your workstation.
Yeah, monitoring the NASDAQ.
The NASDAQ and how it affects minor league baseball.
Yeah, that's my upcoming book.
Because this is how my brain works. My mind immediately goes to what would be the abbreviations for all the minor league teams.
Oh, that's a good one.
Instead of like not what the stock prices themselves will be. We don't need to get into all of that. But there are occasionally some very fun like stock abbreviations that aren't just Portland is POR and Worcester is WOR. Like, let's be a little bit creative with it. So if you have one at home, we're not going to turn this into a segment this week. We got plenty to get to.
But there's an off season coming up.
There is an off season. If we are really down in it, circa January 10th, maybe we'll come up with our own pitches for the NASDAQ and the S&P 500. The S&P 120, is that what we'll call it? Something like that?
Yeah, something like that. We'll work on it.
We'll work on it. The MILB 120. But anyways, it is good to have you back because you are just coming off a trip, which I was going to say not baseball related, but it always somewhat is with us, right? Like we're always finding baseball somewhere on the road. But you were in what I consider, and I know we just had the Field of Dreams game in Dyersville, Iowa. But baseball heaven to me is the Cape Cod League on a good summer night with the fog rolling in. And you got to experience that last week when you got to go with your family to Wellfleet, Massachusetts, but you got to catch the Cape Cod League championship between Harwich and Bourne. Just take me through that experience and getting to witness it for the first time.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, Sam, like you said, we work in baseball. Sometimes we need our own kind of escapes from baseball. It was nice to take a little vacation during the season. I'm not historically not very used to in-season vacations, but yeah, I went with the family, my wife Jill, my son Harry, my mother-in-law Nancy, my wife's great aunt Sandy. I don't know what do you call that? My
great aunt-in-law.
My great aunt-in-law and my great aunt-in-law's boyfriend, Wally, or partner. Wally, great guy, 79-year-old lobster man. Lives on an island in Maine. He kind of lived up to what you'd expect from a guy like that in the best ways. I was like, this guy's great. Anyway, a family vacation to Cape Cod, and I wasn't thinking about baseball outside of the sense of like, oh, what do I have to get done before I'm gone? And I even worked when I was on vacation a little bit. But it was just in the week before leaving, someone brought it up. It's actually a coworker here, a guy who works in stats, Jake Fox. And he said, oh, you're going to the Cape Cod League? I was like, oh, right. I'm going to Cape Cod. They have a baseball league. So I looked it up like, yeah, I got to do that. And, as much as like you want to break from work when you're on vacation, when you work in baseball, you still want to seek out some baseball. At least I do. I think a lot of us do. And so I looked it up and I was like, ooh, they're in the playoffs right now. And the Cape Cod League playoffs were pretty extensive. There was all sorts of scenarios going on. So it was just like, guess we'll just have to let this play out. And let alone the fact that I had never been to Cape Cod before and I didn't really know where Wellfleet was in relation to the other teams. So we got there on a Saturday, two Saturdays ago now. And then all right, where do we stand now? And the finals had just been set between the Harwich Mariners and the Bourne Braves. And I looked it up, and I did not realize how big Cape Cod is, but Bourne was like an hour and 40-minute drive with some traffic. So I was like, Bourne's not looking good. But Harwich was about 35 to 40 minutes, depending on the traffic, from where we were staying in Wellfleet. So that Sunday night, went to Game 1 of the Cape Cod League Championships with my son Harry. Harwich Mariners hosting the Bourne Braves, and Cape Cod, like you said, Cape Cod League, like you said, Sam, is a kind of baseball heaven type environment. We've romanticized nothing night promotions in minor league baseball, and this is nothing night personified. No between inning contests, no music over the PA, just a rudimentary scoreboard and baseball. at a high school field, White House Field, home of the Harwich Mariners during the summer collegiate, summer wood bat league. It's been in operation for many a decade now. Unbelievable list of alumni through the years who have played there. And we pulled into a parking lot across the street from this field, and I noticed all these people carrying chairs, and I was like, "Oh, right, right. There's probably not many places to sit down." Fortunately, I had some beach chairs in the back of my car, so we carried those in. We got there around game time. It's kind of hard to find a spot to post up and watch the game, but Harry and I wandered around, and we both just had a great time because the atmosphere was so pure. I mean, a high school field, little set of bleachers on each side, people in chairs and blankets all along the perimeter of the field, and just casual, family oriented, beautiful summer night in Cape Cod, Massachusetts, watching this game. So we kind of just walked around, found little places to watch, got some food, really fell in love with the environment. Some of the players would walk around during the game selling raffle tickets. Um, and Harry and I went up to a player to maybe buy one. And Harry just liked talking to the players. They're very accessible. He'd just like to give them fist bumps. Although when a player puts his fist bump out to my son Harry, who's 5, Harry looks at that as an invitation to just punch the guy's fist. And I'm like, it's like a fist bump. You don't just like rear back and like punch him in the hand. But he means it. He does not mean it with any malice. But before we could buy a raffle ticket, a guy just gave us a huge stack of them. He was like, "Look, I'm leaving right now." So we had our raffle tickets. And later we won a $25 gift certificate to Dairy Queen. And my son, Harry, was just overjoyed at that. And it sounds kind of corny, but it just made me overjoyed, and just how simple, life can be, and where you can find joy of just going with your son to a Cape Cod League game, having someone hand you some raffle tickets, winning a $25 gift card to Dairy Queen, and Harry's doing the math, and I'm telling him what he can get, and he's like, "Don't worry, Dad, I'll get you something too." And I was like, "Cool, we'll both get like blizzards," and I'm telling him about what a blizzard is. He's like, "How much do you think that will be?" And everything's expensive now. I'm like, "I don't know, maybe $7." And he's like, "Okay, what's 4 sevens?" And he's like, maybe not enough to get some for his mom and grandmother as well." I'm like, "Oh, we'll work it out." But just to have so much excitement about that. And around the seventh inning, we were able to find a spot on the hill overlooking the outfield and just sat down and watched the end of the game. Harwich lost that game to go down 1-0 in the best of 3 series. And the next day, we listened to the game in Bourne and listened to the Mariners win 1-0. At this point, we're huge Harwich Mariners
Of
fans.
course, yeah. You guys
Uh,
were on their social media.
yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. That's another thing that happened that day is, there were some social media people for the Harwich Mariners walking around, and they asked us to say, "Let's go Mariners." And we ended up in their hype video the next day, my son and I saying, "Let's go Mariners." So we became Mariners fans, and we listened the next day as they eked out a 1-0 win over Bourne to set up a winner take all game 3 back in Harwich. And then, our whole family crew went back for the winner take all game 3. Got there just early enough to get a couple of our beach chairs up on the hill overlooking the outfield, and had a great time there. And Harwich won it all 4-2 over Bourne, and we were overjoyed. And I've already checked online. I'm sure it'll merge eventually, but looking for that Harwich Mariners Cape Cod League champion gear now. I think that's going to be a good Christmas present for my wife and son, for real, because it was just like a great memory of the trip, of seeing baseball in this classically pure environment while on vacation. And in a way, it's for the best that I didn't get there. We didn't get there until that was the only game in town, this best of 3 series, because otherwise, every night I would have been looking at the schedule, being like, "Oh, how far away is Katuitt or whatever these
Hmm.
towns are," whatever the case may be.
Hmm.
I probably would have been trying to get out to a game. The Chattanooga Anglers, yeah, Brewster Whitecaps, could have gotten to Brewster. Um, Yarmouth,
Yarmouth.
Yarmouth. I know I'm not a Massachusetts guy. Dennis Red Sox, and so on and so forth. So there's a lot to explore there. If we do make it back to Cape Cod, I do hope to go to more of these pristine baseball environments and and check it out. And there was an article that came out earlier this week. Sam, you and I were talking about it, how
Yeah.
the league has changed, and it's harder to get the more upper echelon college talent there the way it used to for a variety of reasons. The way the college sports landscape has changed, the MLB draft now being a later time of year, et cetera, et cetera. So it was a little disappointing to read that it's hard for it to operate the way it used to, and there's a wide variety of things related to that. But the league itself, I imagine, is going to keep going, even if maybe it won't be as high caliber a player. Um, but yeah, that was by Joe Doyle.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. Joe Doyle wrote that for overslotbaseball.com. And I get his general point, because, as you were talking, Ben, I was looking back at alumni who have played just for the Harwich Mariners.
yeah,
This isn't even just the Cape Cod League. Cam Schlittler was there in 2021,
yeah,
just 5 years ago,
yeah.
and now he's an absolute Cy Young contender in the American League. Both Nola brothers, Aaron and Austin, I don't think they played together, but they were there in back-to-back years during their stints in college. Jonathan India has been there. Brandon Belt was there. Kevin Biggio. I mean, Sean Doolittle played there back in the day. Kevin Gausman was obviously in the news because of
DJ
the
LeMahieu.
how he was there in 2016. I mean, it's a long list, and this is just one of the 10 teams in the Cape League. So multiply that by 10. Yeah, some teams are a little bit more prestigious to play for. I feel like Chatham always has a really good alumni base and et cetera, et cetera. But like still, it has always been a big deal to play on the Cape, and I know NIL changes that, and the way that college programs are now paying their players. And it used to be, hey, go get some extra work in the Cape. Well, now if we're paying you, we don't want you getting extra work and getting hurt. So now you are an actual investment beyond just a scholarship. That changes things to a degree. But I still think we're in that zone where it is a big deal to play on Cape Cod, where guys want to do that. They want to have that. Our guest this week, Josiah Ragsdale. We don't talk about Cape Cod in the interview, but he is somebody who absolutely helped his draft stock by going from Boston College and Iona to playing in the Cape and seeing him compete in a wood bat environment. Right, that's the thing that people have talked about on the Cape for years. It's not metal; it's completely wood bat. And seeing how your stuff plays there is going to help you in going into the draft. So it's still a really cool environment to see players. In most cases, you might not even know who they are. You're just there to soak it in. Summer ball in the Cape, that's perfectly fine. If you're somebody who's looking to make a road trip to the Northeast, or you live in the Northeast, it'd be a fun thing to do. Go Worcester, down to the Cape, up to New Hampshire and Portland. That would be a jam-packed weekend. Throw in Hartford if you want before Worcester, if you really want to make it a completist trip. But highly recommend. I fell in love with the game on the Cape. I used to go to the Cape Cod League All-Star games. I still have autographs somewhere of like Evan Longoria and Craig Kimbrell and Tony Gwynn Jr. and all these big names that came through there before they were big. So I'm really glad you got to experience that, and I'm especially glad that your son got to experience that. And maybe next year you guys will be in a Harwich game come July, just because he's begging to get out there in his brand new Champions gear.
Exactly. I hope we can pull it off. And shout out to the kid who gave him a Cape Cod League ball. He was my son. He's only 5, so he was playing baseball, and some older kids joined in, and he was hanging with the older kids, and but apparently a kid came up and said, "Guess which hand I'm holding a baseball in?" And apparently Harry guessed the right hand, and this kid just gave him a genuine Cape
Uh,
Cod League baseball. So good for you, kids. Thanks to whoever that kid was who gave Harry a ball. And that's the kind of environment it is, kids playing baseball, their own games in like the little patches of woods by the field and hanging out, smoke from the grill, drifting up and making a misty miasma in the stadium lights. Yeah, makes you feel good about the world.
all right, well, now to actual minor league baseball news. For your edition of the newsletter this week, you wrote about your trip to Richmond, which we've talked plenty about. But now that you got to put that together in a newsletter, what kind of stood out as you were writing that?
Yeah, there's a story in the Baseball Traveler newsletter, and it'll have a video along with the story on the site, MILB and MLB.com tomorrow. And, there's so many different directions you can go when you're highlighting a new ballpark. And I think in the previous era of my career, I would kind of make sure to be like, there's this group area, there's this club area, there's these specs on the video board. And I think now I've gotten a little more atmospheric or just kind of how do you tell the story of like how this ballpark came to be or what stands out about it? And to me, Carmax Park, home of the Richmond Flying Squirrels, is a beautiful new ballpark, but it's more how the Flying Squirrels operate. They have a front office staff that is now 55, 60 people. And it's just so great to see a minor league team in a thriving minor league market really commit to staffing, really commit to buy-in on every single promotion. Um, and so I tried to emphasize that aspect as well as, this is a well-known story with Richmond, just how long it took to build this new ballpark. As we mentioned on this podcast and elsewhere, the Flying Squirrels came into being in 2010 after relocating from Norwich, Connecticut, where they were the Connecticut Defenders. And I found a story in researching my story on Carmax Park. I found a story from September 23rd, 2009, written by a young Benjamin Hill. This is how long I've been at this. And it was announcing the Connecticut Defenders move, their relocation to Richmond following the 2009 season. And it has a quote from Chuck Domino, who was then the team's chief executive manager. I look forward to giving the Diamond a facelift, the Diamond being the ballpark, of course, that Richmond had at the time, and which was formerly home to the Richmond Braves. And the Richmond Braves had left the Diamond because they had issues with this massive concrete and steel facility. But anyway, Flying Squirrels decide to give it a shot. And when they go announce that they're moving to Richmond, I look forward to giving the Diamond a facelift as we re-energize fans in the short run while efforts begin to give a city with the status of Richmond what it deserves, which is the best new minor league ballpark in America. That was the quote at the time in 2009. And the original deal committed to 2 years at the Diamond with a couple of 1 year extensions if necessary. Maybe 2 years would have been a little optimistic at that in that timeline. As people know with ballparks, the most optimistic timeline never comes true. But I think most people thought within 3 or 4 years, this ballpark was happening. The team moving there from Norwich was kind of contingent on this will happen. That ballpark, which I'm writing about now, opened in 2026. So it just goes to show. Things take time. And when you're dealing with public-private partnerships and negotiations with outside developers and later and being part of larger mixed use development projects and the city and the county and the state and who knows and community input and the historical designations of possible places that you might be putting a ballpark. I didn't have the space to go into it, but credit to everyone involved for sticking it through and having 2 to 3 to 4 years at the Diamond turn into 15, 16, and yet still making it all the way through the other side. And I think that makes seeing a game at Carmax Park in Richmond extra special. And they really do have a exemplary front office operation, and a fan base, which I think we've talked about before. But
Yeah.
that Richmond market, man, um, they know their baseball. They stay engaged. They sing the seventh inning stretch with enthusiasm. I mean, that is a baseball town from a minor league perspective for sure. And it's just so great as someone who's been to a lot of places to go to a place where there's energy for the game itself. There's energy for all the other goofy stuff too, of course. And the Squirrels do that well, but to also have that combined with a real appreciation for the product on the field is great best of both worlds scenario.
Yeah, I mean, and speaking of, that investment in the front office and that investment in the community and the buy-in from the community, I was just looking up attendance numbers for this year for minor league baseball just to see where Richmond slots in there. They are currently fifth across all of the full season minor leagues in average attendance. They are averaging 7,021 fans per game. They are also sixth in total attendance as we sit here now. Most of the teams that are ahead of them, Lehigh Valley, Indianapolis, Nashville, and Albuquerque, are AAA teams. There's one high A team, which is Dayton, which
Yeah.
just they had a sellout streak forever. I mean, they just do crazy numbers in Dayton as a high A club. But Richmond, you put in a new stadium, you hope that people come out to see it and enjoy it, and that's clearly what's going on there. So you getting to experience that, you getting to share that in your newsletter is a big, big deal. Now moving on to promotions, this one already happened, but you wanted to circle back on it just because it is a great matchup of bobblehead and bobblehead sponsor. And I will tease it by sharing with the folks at home what might be my favorite lead of the year, written by our own Joshua Jackson, which is just one sentence: everybody dies. And from there, take it away, Ben.
Yes, Josh Jackson's story on this promo did begin with "Everybody Dies," and it made sense because this is a story on one of the best alignments between giveaway product and sponsor that we've seen in the minor leagues in quite some time. The Corpus Christi Hooks, their longtime broadcaster, is named Michael Coffin. And so the team gave away a bobblehead of their longtime broadcaster, Michael Coffin, sponsored by a funeral home. And what is it? The Seaside Funeral Home. And that's just Seaside Memorial Park and Funeral Home. And they gave it away on the Day of the Dead. The team played as the Dia de los Hooks for their Copa de la Diversion identity. So it's the Day of the Dead. You have a coffin bobblehead sponsored by a funeral home. And so it all ties together. Josh's story was a fun one on that. Michael Coffin was obviously on board with this idea, had good humor about it. And of course, is delighted to have his own bobblehead. So, credit to him. And Josh's full lead in the story: everybody dies. But if you haven't seen yourself represented on a bobblehead sponsored by a funeral home and given away to 2,000 people on a morbid minor league theme night, have you even lived?
That is a very Josh lead in the best of ways. So, like you said, that already happened, but hopefully this inspires other people to. Who do you have in your front office who could use a bobblehead, and how can we get, like, what would the Benjamin Hill sponsor be? Because obviously your last name.
Yeah,
but there's nobody really making hills. You know what I mean?
No, I mean it could be some kind of landscaper or something like that. But that's a hill. No. Or isn't there Hills? It's like a pet food company.
Sure.
But I don't know how well that really ties in. Yeah, some work better than others, but it's fun whether it's a player or someone in your front office. Scan through and see if there's a connection there.
I think mine would have to be Sam's Club.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah.
We won't be touching my last name, but Sam's Club is a good one. And just to run a few other ones by the folks at home, Chapel Roan Night is coming to Springfield, the Springfield Cardinals. We've talked about them a lot on this show. We're going to talk to a Springfield Cardinal later in the show, so we won't get too deep into that. But Chapel Roan is from that area of Missouri. Her hometown is northwest of Springfield, but not very far away. So she actually cut a promo. She shot a quick video lending her support to Chapel Roan Night. So that will be happening with the Springfield Cardinals. And then the Synchronized Hippos are coming to Columbia on August 20th, which is tonight when we are recording this on Thursday. But go check out to see how that worked out. That's something I believe we've talked about on the show before.
We did.
Because there was a wrong guess on Jeopardy about something being synchronized, and it was meant to be the Fireflies because Columbia is the Fireflies. Instead, somebody guessed hippos. So the Columbia Fireflies are running with that and calling themselves the Synchronized Hippos for a night on August 20th. Stories up on the site about both of those things. We are getting into that time now where I think people are getting a little kooky with their promotions. It's about, welcome back to school time. You need to draw people out however you can, whatever ideas you had. And this is something we talked last week with Worcester about in terms of I think you should leave night. Just try it. If it doesn't work, you don't have to bring it back for 2027. But if it does, well, then you got to find out something, and that's how great ideas are born. So I like teams just throwing stuff against the wall. Some cases more than others. Chapel Roan Night is something I think Springfield should do moving forward, especially if it has her blessing. But anyways, yeah, if you're looking around the promo calendar and it's looking a little off kilter in the weeks to come in a good way, it's probably why, because we're getting close to the end of the season.
Yeah, if you got any ideas left, do it now. Do it now. The off seasons are long, and we're never guaranteed another opening day.
Jesus. Anyways, this has been a very morbid take on Ben's Biz Banter, presented by Circle K, the official convenience store of minor league baseball. Ben will be back. We will do some sort of naming of dudes, as we always do when it's just two of us in the final segment. But until then, thanks, Ben.
Yeah, I'll see you then. Enjoy the rest of the show.
Look what TJ Maxx dragged in.
The Devil Wears Prada 2 is now streaming on Disney Plus and Hulu.
We are digital, we are downloadable, we are streamable.
The fashion event of the year is certified fresh.
Pull yourself together. We have work to do.
Critics say it's smart and witty and the perfect sequel.
That's all.
Get runway ready for The Devil Wears Prada 2 on Disney Plus and Hulu. Rated PG-13.
Hey, everybody, it's Sam again, just me for our on-field chatter this week. Now, as we talked about last week, we just updated the top 30s, the top 100, the top 10 positional lists. But what we also wanted to do, of course, is come out with our farm system rankings and get those spiffed up for the mid-season update. So we did that on Monday. I believe it was Sunday going into Monday, earlier this week. In any event, we updated the farm system rankings at MLB Pipeline. In the number one spot is the Los Angeles Dodgers. The Dodgers were actually number one at our midseason rank last year. Then they went to number two in the preseason. Now they're back at number one. I know what you might be saying. Didn't they just trade away Zaire Hope and River Ryan for Tarek Skubal? Well, one thing we always said going into that trade was the Dodgers could trade away some really good prospects and still not even feel it and not really get hurt as an overall farm system. As we sit here now, they have 4 players in the top 25. That's Josue De Paula, Mike Sirota, Eduardo Quintero, Emil Morales. And then they have 2 others in the top 100 as well as Christian Zazueta at number 36 and Charles Davelin at number 87. It's well-rounded. Zach Root is somebody we've talked about a lot as a left-handed pitcher, as somebody who could join the top 100. James Tibbs has been on the top 100, got bumped out, but he's somebody knocking on the door there at AAA. Chase Harlan is somebody who we've talked about as maybe a future top 100 addition. And then Bo Lawrence was the 40th pick in the draft, but a lot of people had him going comfortably in the first round. So they got another really strong bat. They're even drafting 40th overall in the draft. So this is one of those situations where they are just really good at the top. And that's something we weigh pretty heavily is like, if you have a lot of top 100 prospects, if you have a lot of top 25 overall prospects, that's going to make you look really good. It's much harder. There are probably going to be some of these guys who are going to miss, and that's just the way it goes with ranking prospects. But when you've got in the top 25, you're giving yourself a really good shot at having a really good farm system. So the Dodgers are at number one. Number 2, the Tampa Bay Rays are back. Tampa Bay Rays were number 10 in both our preseason list this year and then our midseason list last year. But they are now at number 2. Grady Emerson getting to draft him at number 2 overall, big reason for the jump here. But also Theo Gillen, a legit power breakout bat this year at high A and double A in his second full season. Caden Bodine, who they got from the Orioles in last year's Shane Baz deal, striking out virtually never this year between 3 different levels, single A, high A, and double A, while looking like somebody who can stick behind the plate at catcher. If you wanted to argue with me that he has the best pure hit tool in the top 100 right now, I really wouldn't argue with you. Nathan Flewelling is just behind him in our top 100. Bodine's at number 51. Flewelling's at number 65. Both of those guys are catchers. The Rays have what I like to call the ghost of Buster Posey. They could have taken Buster Posey first overall years and years ago. They chose not to do that. I think that was the year they took Tim Beckham instead. Didn't quite work out. Buster Posey became obviously a Hall of Famer or future Hall of Famer for the San Francisco Giants. The Rays ever since have really struggled to develop a homegrown catcher. Now, I know they went out and got Liam Hicks at the deadline this year. He's not homegrown, but that allows them to take their time a little bit more with Bodine and Flewelling and not have to pressure those guys to get to the bigs as quickly as possible when they have somebody like Hicks. So you look at some of the other nice seasons they've had below the top 100. Tayton Gray, I think I said Cooper Fleming before. Austin Overns had a good year, though he's striking out a lot, but he's somebody they really believe in terms of his speed and defense. Andremi Antunes, much lower down levels, is somebody who's broken in to their top 30 pretty comfortably. So it's once again, a pretty well-rounded. We haven't talked about pitchers in here. Some of their guys have really, really good stuff. Some of their guys have really good command. Some of them haven't quite connected all of those dots just yet. But there's still some good arms here with Brody Hopkins, Ty Johnson. Both those guys have been at AAA this year. Jose Rubina has had an arrow pointed up at him. So Tampa Bay Rays at number 2. At number 3 is our preseason number 1, the Milwaukee Brewers. Jesus Madej, the number one overall prospect in the game, continues to be the shining star. For them, Luis Pena is their number two prospect. He's number 21 in the rankings. Josh Adamchevsky is number 88. Luis Lara is number 89. And then Brady Ebel slides into the top 100 for the first time at number 99. Now, I think if you wanted to pick apart something with the Brewers, and this is why they're not repeating at number one for us. Their pitching is a tier down from the bats. They do have some interesting pitchers like Tyson Harden, Bishop Letson, Josh Noth. Those guys are 8 to 10 right now in our top 30, but they are not really top 100 adjacent for us in the way that an Andrew Fisher or a Braylon Payne certainly is. But I mean, what do the Brewers love to do? They develop really well internationally. There have been some real steps up led by Ricky Monies in the Dominican Summer League this year. They do have some interesting arms further down the list. I would have really liked to have ranked Ethan Dorches. I didn't end up doing that. He's actually going onto the list. If he's not on there now, he will be very shortly for Luis Lara. So they still have some interesting arms. It's just the bats are so far ahead of the arms. We don't feel that they're quite as well-rounded or have the top echelon talent that the Rays and the Dodgers do above them. At number 4 is the St. Louis Cardinals. Now, the Cardinals only have 3 top 100 prospects for us right now in Rainiel Rodriguez, Liam Doyle, and Joshua Baez. Joshua Baez, you got to see debut over the weekend, right? Hitting 3 homers. First major leaguer ever to hit 3 homers in his rookie debut. First player in history to homer in his first 3 plate appearances. That was incredible. Yes, the stocks, the roller coaster is starting to come back down on him a bit in the major leagues because he's striking out a lot. But still, they may only have 3 top 100 guys, but they do have some really, really, really interesting depth. And some of that comes internally. Some of it comes from trades. Some of it comes from the fact that they had, I think, and this is pretty well shared across the industry, the deepest draft class in this year's draft. And then going out and getting an Alexander Frias, a Josiah Ragsdale, who, if you've seen the title to this episode, you know is a guest on this episode this week. And the gap between a Frias at number 4 and a Durangelo Senja, who was on the top 100 in preseason, has since slipped, but is now knocking on the door at AAA. It's not very big between 4 and 12. It's a very, very small window there. If you wanted to argue that the Cardinals' depth should push them into the top 3, I won't stand in your way. I think if we're looking up a year from now and there are 6 or 7 Cardinals in the top 100, I wouldn't be shocked in the slightest. So they are at number 4. Number 5 is one of our biggest jumpers. This is the San Francisco Giants, who have never ranked this highly in an MLB pipeline farm system rankings ever since we've been doing this. They have 5 top 100 prospects of their own. Josué Gonzalez is number 17. Luis Hernandez is number 27. Jackson Flora, their first round pick this year, is at number 31. Johnny Lovell enjoying a breakout year at the A-ball levels. He's at number 47. And then Ramon Marquez, who they got from the Phillies in the Luis Ariz deal, he slots in at number 100. He might have the best changeup in minor league baseball. I mean, it's a pitch that has been absolutely exceptional this year. And when we were looking for feedback, his name popped up a few times in terms of, hey, like if this is as good as it looks and the velo is as good as it looks, and if he can have enough of a breaking ball, that could be really, really special. And it's not just the mirage that sometimes we see from guys with really good changeups at the lower levels dominating. There's some other interesting traits there. So we got Ramon Marquez on there at number 100. But Gonzalez and Hernandez are the 2 shining stars here. Both of them are now with Single A San Jose. Hernandez was signed internationally back in January. He skipped the Dominican Summer League completely, moved to the Arizona Complex League, and is now in Single A ball. He had one of my favorite plays of the year at third base, a really rangy play with a long throw across the diamond to get the out there. I believe that was in his first week with San Jose, if not in his debut in the California League. But either way, really special arm. The bat's coming along for Hernandez. He could absolutely be in the top 10 next year. And Gonzalez is somebody who feels like a no-doubt shortstop, who is, already I think he's 18 years old at Single A now, and kind of ahead of the curve for many of his peers. Where's the bat going to be eventually? 19 in October. We have him with above average grades for both hit and power, and then 60s for arm and fielding and a 65 run tool. it wouldn't shock me at all, and I need to stop using that phrase here, but it wouldn't surprise me if he's somebody who is our number one overall prospect a year from now, once he starts to get more of that experience in the middle levels and get more of that success. But the Giants have been doing a tremendous job of developing those infield prospects between Gonzalez, Hernandez, and Level. Jackson Flora was a strong pick where they got him, and then acquiring Marquez in the Arise deal from the Phillies, that helps there too. They have other interesting players as well. A couple outfielders in Bo Davidson and Dakota Jordan. Gavin Keelan, middle infielder. Some people see him as kind of top 100 adjacent too. So Giants were number 19 in our preseason ranks. We just wanted to see some of these guys perform. They certainly have done that. And with some of the other acquisitions, like I said, they are now the highest they've ever been. It used to be number 8 in the middle of 2021. Now it's number 5 in the middle of 2026. So that's our top 5. The rest of the rankings are on the website for your perusal. If you haven't done that already, go for it. Go look for your favorite team. There's a decent chance if you're listening to this, you've seen it already. You might have already sounded off with your takes on where some of these teams are. It's a fun exercise every year. It's a quick snapshot, right? These things are always changing. But that's our top 5 for now. A couple other things just to highlight real quick. I did a fun story this week on Wednesday with Ben Weinrib on Sawyer Strasnider, who was the second round pick by the Milwaukee Brewers out of TCU. And Strasnider, where I think a lot of people thought he was going to be taken in the first round. I think he was even mocked to the Brewers in the first round, ends up going in the second round because of some swing and miss and chase issues. But if the Brewers had taken him in the first round, you wouldn't have batted an eye. And if they had taken Trey Ebel, their first rounder, in the second round, you wouldn't have batted an eye. So it kind of evened out there for the Brewers. But he has opened his career so far with High A Wisconsin. And his dad and his mom were actually at the game on Wednesday. And his dad, Sawyer Strasnider said this to Ben, that his dad can never sit in one place in a game. He just can't do it. He's always moving around. When Sawyer's up to bat, he's looking around. He can see his dad has moved around to a different place. Well, in this case, his dad was in right center in the party deck there in Wisconsin, in Appleton. And you're not really supposed to be there. He was even told, hey, this is a private party. What are you doing here? And Sawyer Strasnider's dad said, I am here because my son is at bat and he's going to hit a home run to me. Lo and behold, that's exactly what Strasnider did. It's pretty incredible. If you watch the video, you see him hit the ball. It's going towards that party deck. There's a guy in a white shirt, perfectly pitted underneath, and makes the catch. And you're like, all right, well, that's solid job by that guy. And the Wisconsin Timber Rattlers shared later that it was in fact his father. And the fact that it was just so perfect that happened. His dad's name is Scott Strasnider, I should say, who is an equine doctor in Texas. There with Sawyer's father, excuse me. He actually played a little ball himself. He played at Morehead State collegiately, and then was with West Virginia, I believe, in the Frontier League for 1 year. So he knows a little bit of ball, but he said this is a different animal, right? Like seeing your son play professionally and knowing what it takes to get to that level, you kind of just have to be a dad at some points. But also seeing tens of thousands of swings from your son, you kind of know that he has the power to the pull side and that he could go out to right center. So great parental intuition by Scott Strasnider to witness his son to know to be in the right place. And he said, like, they have bats of Sawyer winning batting titles in Texas and being a second-team All-American at TCU his freshman year. But now they have a ball from his first professional home run, which is really, really cool. So go check out that story, more details in that, and more great quotes from the Strasnider family. But that was just one of those, like, baseball is great. You play enough baseball, you watch enough baseball, you're going to see something that you've never seen before. And I just love that happened there for the Strasnider family. A few other things just to point out real quick. We brought up Joshua Baez's debut over the weekend, how incredible that was. Go watch the highlights of that if you haven't again, just to see his smile on hitting that home run. He hit one to left, he hit one to center, hit one to right field. It was all fields pop from the Cardinals outfielder. Yes, he's going to have some swing and miss issues. He looked vulnerable at times to fastballs up in the zone and then sliders down and away. So I wonder how long it's going to take for major league pitchers, to catch on to that. But the fact that he was somebody who has hit 30 plus home runs at AAA Memphis before that, everybody knew what the power was, and he showed it off as quickly as humanly possible in the show. It was really, really special stuff. As we sit here on Thursday, maybe I should knock on wood, take it for what it's worth. Bryce Rayner, the Tigers, I believe, number 3 prospect, has homered in 5 straight games for High A West Michigan, which sets a record for the Whitecaps. It's the longest run of home runs in Whitecaps history. Bryce Rayner is somebody who, it's really interesting. You talk to evaluators about him. You look at his strikeout rate. It's been in the 30s. It's really rough. You watch video from him beginning of the year. He had a really high leg kick that looked like it was throwing him off at times. His timing wasn't quite there. He's somebody who had a shoulder injury in his first full year last year, so that lost him some development time. Killer arm. He's a really good defensive shortstop. He's left-handed hitting. The power is certainly there. You look at it, it might be like a 40 hit, 60 power, good athleticism, 70 arm at a premium spot. It's tough to give up on those guys. Now, part of me is worried that he's just a left-handed version of Carson Williams with the Tampa Bay Rays. We've seen how that's worked out for him when he had serious hit tool issues in the minor leagues. But I don't know. Bryce Rayner seems like a true athlete and seems like the power ceiling is even higher than it was for Carson Williams, and he has the handedness to his advantage as well. So intriguing development here for Bryce Rayner. Keep an eye on him, see how long this streak will be going. Maybe it's over by the time you hear this. Maybe he's just starting a new one. Who knows? But he's been a really interesting one to follow. And then Rainiel Rodriguez, whose name has been brought up on the show quite a bit, and he will be again in our interview segment here shortly. But Rodriguez, 19-year-old catcher so far this year. He's played at High A Peoria, got the call up to Double A Springfield. I got to talk to him for a bit down there, but is on an absolute tear recently with the Springfield Cardinals. This is in his last 18 games. Sure, he had points, I get that, but it's still a heck of a run. He's batting .444 with a .494 on base percentage. He is slugging .806, which would be a good OPS for many 19-year-olds in Double A, but that's his slugging percentage. His OPS is 1.299. He's got 5 homers and 11 doubles, so 16 extra base hits in those 18 games. He's only struck out 7 times. This is a tremendous run for Rainiel Rodriguez. There's no two ways around it. What he is doing at his age, at his experience level, because really this is just his second full season of pro ball, is incredible. He's number 18 on our top 100 right now. I think there may be some questions about when you look at him, how is that body going to age? Is he going to be able to stay at catcher long term? The Cardinals have started sprinkling in some first base. I think that's just to get him off his feet, right? Like get him in a less demanding position, trying to get him to play as many games as possible this year and not wear out his knees because he is so young. So I wouldn't look too much into that just yet. They have talked openly about like, hey, we know versatility is a big deal. Joshua Baez, when he got called up, played left field, even though a lot of people thought he would either be center or right, but they gave him good exposure to left field before the call up, just so that wouldn't be a brand new thing for him. I'm not saying Rainiel Rodriguez is going to start working half and half at first base next year just to get that into his system. And they've even mentioned like corner outfield generally, which starts making you wonder, would he even see some time at third base? Maybe that's something we explore next spring training, but I still think they fully believe that he can be a really good catcher long-term, or at least good enough catcher given where the bat is. And this might be a classic example of like going into next spring. He's a AAA hitter going into his age 20 season, but he's a AA catcher. How do you balance that? What will the Cardinals do? But he's absolutely forcing their hand right now. Would it shock me at all if he saw Memphis by the end of this year? Maybe not, because it's clear he's needing a challenge. Like the bat to ball skills have been phenomenal. The power has been really good. That's what we expected. So Rainiel Rodriguez, follow Springfield games. I mean, they've been really, really good. All right. Well, that dovetails really nicely into our interview segment this week. Somebody who I was excited to get on the show just because he is one of the breakout prospects of the year. At least, if you go really deep into prospectum, Josiah Ragsdale, he's number 11 on the Cardinals list right now, 7th-round pick by the Brewers last year. So was not on our Milwaukee top 30 coming into the year, though I started to hear some whispers in spring training that they really like the guy, and we'll get into that in a second. But absolutely showed breakout signs at high A Wisconsin this year. In his first 60 games there, he batted .327 with a .975 OPS, got a call up to Double A Biloxi, and then homered 12 times in 26 games. And went from somebody who people thought was hit tool forward with some power to all of a sudden being power first with some hit tool questions. And he increased his stock enough that he was included in the deal for Dustin May and Jojo Romero with the Cardinals. So he switched NL Central clubs, NL Central organizations, 2 of our top 4 farm systems, right? To circle back to the rankings talk at the top of this segment. But Josiah Ragsdale, heck of a year, still some weeks out. He's still finding his footing with Double A Springfield. But after the trade deadline and everything that's gone on for him, it was an exciting time to bring him onto the podcast. So here's my conversation with Josiah Ragsdale. Well, we're very pleased on this week's edition of the show before the show to be joined by number 11 Cardinals prospect Josiah Ragsdale. Josiah is now with Double A Springfield. First off, thanks so much for joining us. How are you doing?
Good. How are you? Thank you for having me.
Good. Yeah, of course. And a big reason we wanted to have you at least a few weeks removed from the trade deadline, give you a little time to settle there with Springfield. But for those who don't know, you were traded from the Brewers to the Cardinals for Dustin May and Jojo Romero, along with Alexander Frias at the trade deadline. First off, what was it like to go through that experience? Where were you? I know you were with Double A Biloxi at the time, but I'm sure it may have come a little bit as a shock. What was that experience like?
Yeah, I was traveling on Monday when one of my guys, he was driving up. I think it was like 4 or 5 hours away. I think we're like 2 hours away. Got the call, and I got a rental, drove all the way back to Biloxi, and then got a flight the next day. So it's been overwhelming, but just getting my feet wet, getting comfortable again, and just doing my job.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine it must be a little weird changing organizations so early in your career. You were just a 7th-round pick out of Boston College a year ago. What was your initial reaction to that part of the trade? Of everybody says it's a business, but also, I mean, you were just getting comfortable with the Brewers. It feels like now you're on your second organization already.
Yeah, I was definitely shocked knowing like I haven't finished my first professional season. I do have a couple weeks left. Just knowing that my value is pretty high, so I knew going into the trade deadline, obviously something could happen. But I'm grateful for those guys and the opportunity they gave me to start my career.
Yeah, what were those initial conversations with the Cardinals like?
They were just very excited. Obviously knew the value. Obviously know that next year could be a big year for me, stepping in, being a big leaguer, trying to help the big league club. So, like I said before, just trying to show up every single day, just do my job.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you talked about becoming a very valuable player now, and this has very much been a breakout season for you between high A and Double A. You're up to 21 homers, 31 steals. You were off to a really good start there with the Wisconsin batting .327, and then with Biloxi hitting 12 homers in 26 games. I kind of want to get into the power aspect of it specifically because I think a lot of people thought you were hit over power, and that reputation flipped a bit when you got that call. It's not normally the way it goes. You don't jump in power like the way you did in Biloxi. Was there a switch that flipped, or what went into just that power gains that you showed in the Southern League before the trade?
I think just having a full offseason, trying to know who I am, trying to tap into my power a little bit, just trying to do more damage, and obviously showing this past year. But I think just putting on a little more weight and just knowing what I could do.
Yeah, I mean, what kind of off-season drills do you do to work on that? Is it just strength training? Is it anything about bat path or anything like that? I mean, what do you do to get your power to play more in game?
It's been both, like for rotational wise, and just trying to clean up like the lower half with my guys back at New Jersey. So I think just taking a lot of the side video and just fix some things, and obviously a lot of things have clicked so far. So
Yeah, when you were looking at that side video, what has changed specifically?
Like I said before, the lower half, I feel like I just never really used my lower half too much. I think just cleaning the lower half with the upper half, working it and connecting it with it. So, yeah.
Yeah, and one thing that was extreme beyond just the home run numbers with your time with Biloxi, you were hitting the ball for fly balls 56.7% of the time. I mean, now it's back towards the 20s again, but that's a pretty extreme change. I know everybody likes to talk about launch angle and getting the ball in the air more. The fact that you were able to do that so efficiently was astonishing. Was there anything you were working on in Biloxi, or is that just a trade-off of all that work you've been talking about?
I think it's just been all the work I've been doing. Obviously be around those guys in that locker room too, like Berg, Fish. I think it's contagious, just seeing those guys hit the ball consistently in the air for homers. Just being around those guys just helped me as well. So
Mhm. Yeah, and you talked about getting acquired from the Cardinals and those initial conversations and how excited they were potentially for you to play with the big club next year. I know talking with the Cardinals in the past, they usually, I mean, it's not just getting guys in trades. They are targeting something they see in you specifically. Did they share that with you about like what they were most excited about?
I think just knowing the value I could play all three positions, bringing a big bat to the lineup, and just the speed I have on the bases, just an all around player. What I mean, just going to show up and give everything I have. So
Mhm. Yeah, and as you've learned more about their player development tools or philosophies, what do you feel like is a good fit specifically for you, or what have you picked up most about the way they preach player development?
the player development side, I see like the strength and conditioning. They're really big on it. I think they're doing their first strength camp this off season. I think they'll
Hmm.
probably have a lot of their prospects there, which is huge. Our head coach is really big on the base running aspect as well. I learned a lot about that when I was at Boston College. So just getting back into that rhythm and routine again. So
Hmm. Yeah, and you're going from one really deep organization in the Brewers to another really deep organization in the Cardinals. Have you noticed any differences, or what has been the biggest difference in the way that those two organizations preach player development?
I don't think it has been a really big difference. You know what I mean? I feel like the Cardinals and Brewers have a lot of really good prospects, and you want to surround yourself with those guys. They obviously want to be in the big leagues someday, and it could be next year, it could be 2 years, but just knowing and seeing their routines and just showing up every single day.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I know you haven't experienced anything else yet, but I mean, what just speak to that you were talking about before between Fisher and Burke and the way those guys launch balls. What else is something you've picked up from seeing somebody either with the Brewers? I mean, you got to play with Jesus Madej there for a while with Biloxi, or now with the Cardinals, Rainiel Rodriguez is there as well. There's just so much talent on these teams you're playing up against. Besides
Mm.
seeing those guys launch, what's something else you picked up just by watching your teammates?
I think just the mental side, especially right now, and Jesus obviously being so young, just showing up every single day, just doing their job. I think it's just the mental side, honestly. Like you got to show up every single day, regardless of how you feel. And a lot of people are looking at you every single day, everything you do. So I think just showing up.
Yeah, I mean, how does that change when you are a pro compared to where you were at BC and Iona before that? I mean, those are, Division One programs, but now all of a sudden being part of two really good organizations and you're playing 6 days a week instead of just a handful on the weekends. I mean, how has that been a mental shift just trying to go 100 plus over a summer?
I feel like I got a little taste of it when I was at Boston College. I obviously didn't play 100 games, but I got close to it because I obviously got sent out to low A when I got
Right.
drafted. But just knowing where I want to be and who I want to be someday. I think just taking care of the body, getting the recovery in, and just doing my job.
At what point did this feel like it was going to be a special season? Was it spring training? Was it your first month in with Wisconsin? Was it that really hot stretch with Biloxi? I mean, when did it feel like, oh, people are really paying attention to what I'm doing here?
I think it was spring training. Honestly, I got into a couple big league games, got the opportunity, and I did a little bit of damage, showing what I could do a little bit, and I feel like I could take that confidence to the breakout game, and then when the season started as well.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, what do you feel like even going back to last year? I guess because, like you said, you got a small taste of pro ball last year with single A. What do you feel like was your welcome to pro ball moment?
I think my first week in Wilson, North Carolina, knowing that
Right.
I was just by myself getting sent out. I feel like you learn a lot when you're by yourself every single day. And I think just when you build your own routine and you figure it out, I feel like that's when you take off.
hmm What is it about your routine that works best for you that you found over that last year then?
I think just taking care of my body, just knowing what I need to do, not doing too much, not doing too much little, if that makes sense.
Sure. I mean, is that like you worried about overworking yourself, or what do you mean exactly by that?
No, just maintaining the body, maintaining the swings, just knowing what I want to feel every single day. And I feel like when I get that feeling, I'm gonna be all right.
hmm Yeah, and you were talking before about watching side video and how that helped you get into your lower half. How much are you still checking in with video to see how things are looking mechanically?
Every day, honestly. I know it sounds bad, but every day. Even like the little things, I like to see what I'm doing, how my body's moving. I feel like because when I get in certain positions, I can do certain things. So
Nice. Yeah. And you mentioned before moving around defensively. I mean, you've seen time at all three outfield spots. I know Springfield has, just another really good defensive center fielder in Ty Pete. What is it like just like are you given a set schedule every week of like, oh, you're going to be playing left Tuesday, Wednesday, and then center Thursday, Friday? Or how does that work to the yard and being told where to go on the grass?
honestly, no. I usually find out the night of when the game is over.
Okay.
But during like BP or practice, I usually try to do all three, honestly. Trying to get comfortable with left again. Center and right, I feel like I got down, but I think left field is I'm trying to get a little bit of work on. So
The angles, I mean, what's different about learning about I know obviously it's different off the bat. Uh what is it about it that you're trying to get used to
I
again?
think it's like the angles, the down reads, the spin is different. So
Mhm. Yeah, and how does that change your day to day? Like when you do find out you're going to be in left field, are you thinking all night about what the angles are going to be like, or is you only think about it once you get to the ballpark?
once I get to the ballpark, I think once we start taking defense and taking live BP, guys saying BP on field, get a couple of reads, make sure I'm seeing the ball correctly, and get ready for the game.
As we mentioned before, I mean, you played high school ball in New Jersey, then going on to Iona and Boston College. It's a lot of Northeast ball for your amateur play, but then getting drafted by one National League Central organization, playing in Wisconsin, then you're traded to another one and now playing in Missouri. What have you just learned about, the culture of baseball in the Midwest?
It's cold. So it's really cold. I can't lie. I'm used to it though. I remember the first couple of weeks when I was in Wisconsin, it was freezing. It was probably 20, 30 by game time. We had like the heaters around the dugout, but it's been warm. I'm happy it's really warm now, but in the beginning of the season, it's usually cold, so I'm used to that.
Yeah, I was in Springfield a few weeks before the deadline, and I feel like it's warmed up plenty down there in Southwest Missouri by now.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
And what just in terms of Cardinals fans, because I've talked to people about this too. I mean, Springfield is in Missouri. You are not that far. You are only two stops away from the majors to begin with, but also that's a very knowledgeable fan base. I mean, what have you just learned about the Cardinals and their fans being there for a few weeks now?
Definitely, the culture's big. I was kind of shocked when I was in Biloxi. It wasn't too many fans, but these people care about the team. They obviously know this team could be the big league team within the next 2 or 3 years. Have this team or majority. So just knowing that love and support is definitely for the Cardinals.
Mhm. Yeah, and in terms of the guys you've gotten to play with now, maybe some of them you've heard about before. You were talking about before Jesus Baez. I mean, we brought up Ty Pete, Rainiel Rodriguez. Who are some guys who you had heard about before, but now that you get to call them teammates, have really opened your eyes?
I think Jesus Baez. I played against him, and when he was with Peoria, and I was like,
Right.
yeah, this guy's a really talented player. Obviously, obviously gonna be a big leaguer probably next year or the year after, but just seeing him every single day and what he can do defensively and hitting wise is just unbelievable.
hmm Yeah, I mean that those sideway throws everybody talks about
Yeah,
those sidearm whips that he
unbelievable.
goes around. Man,
Yeah, he's
all right.
special.
Well, just now that we sit here, mid-August, there are a few weeks remaining in the season. It's been a whirlwind for you, I'm sure. But how do you kind of view these last few weeks in terms of what you need to do to end on a high note, and what are you still working on?
Definitely, just trying to finish strong. Obviously trying to get hot again, trying to just find my rhythm. Just watching video, just trying to do anything I can do for the team so we keep winning and obviously push for playoffs and win the whole thing as well. So
Mhm. Yeah, and then going back to, I mean, this will be now your or it's your second off season. Is there? I don't want to get too ahead of things because we're not there yet on the doorstep. But like, given the way the off season went last year, how do you repeat it and set yourself up for another step forward in 2027?
definitely just honestly, I was gonna do the same thing I did last year. Try to do a little more things, trying to add more weight into my body because I lose a lot of weight. Get back with my guys, my hitting guys, and my strength coach as well. So just maintaining that, make sure I'm staying healthy, make sure my mobility is right, everything like that. So
Yeah, and speaking of that mobility, I mean, you like we said, you're somebody already with more than 30 steals this year. I think you set the BC record for most steals in a season. I mean, how much is that part of your game now? And I feel like things are cresting a bit on steals. So how much are you still trying to push the envelope in that department?
definitely, I know I still have it. I haven't been showing it the past couple of weeks. Um, I think just knowing that what I learned at BC and obviously took it to pro ball is a huge step. Just knowing the system, knowing the numbers. I just feel like when I match up, I could go. So
Is that just how long it takes the pitcher to go? Is that the catcher? I mean, or is that just your own confidence? Like you said, like you haven't. I don't think you've even attempted yet with Springfield, which is fine. I know you're still finding your footing, but what goes into that?
I think just timing on the pitcher, not really on the catcher. I think just knowing when I'm matched up, I'll be ready. So
Nice. I mean, with plus wheels like yourself, I mean, I imagine it's always they're itching to go in some way.
yeah,
Um, well, Josiah, thanks so much for doing this. Congrats on all the success so far in 2026. Good luck the rest of the way here, as you said, as Springfield pushes for the Texas League playoffs. And thanks so much for joining us.
thank you. I appreciate it.
Our thanks again to Josiah Ragsdale, Cardinals prospect, for joining us on this episode of the show before the show. As promised, I am now back with Benjamin Hill to record our final segment here. As is the case, sometimes we switch it up. Normally, we do a Name That Dude segment here in the final section of the show. When it's just two of us, it's a little bit more difficult. So we're each going to pick a team for the other guy to just name a dude from. We're not going to be spitting out, biographical information, trying to guess it. It's just going to be an opportunity to remember some of our favorite players and player from those teams. I was going to pick a team at random, but Ben, you have a giant wheel of major league teams. So I guess we can do it this way.
I mean, I literally just found this pickerwheel.com random MLB team generator. I just hit spin. It is spinning. It is spinning. It's slowing down. It has come up on the Arizona Diamondbacks.
All right. So my team will be the Arizona Diamondbacks.
Name an Arizona Diamondback.
Oh, you know who's one that comes to mind, and this is more of like a baseball thing, or not a baseball thing. Of course, it's a baseball thing. Baseball video game thing for me for whatever reason with this player, Tony Womack.
Yeah, good one.
And I feel like I should have saved Tony Womack for like a name that dude segment.
He's a good dude, yeah.
But I would have guessed Tony Womack had a lot more than 2.4 WAR for his career, but apparently not. He played 13 years in the bigs. 5 of them were with Arizona. He also had 5 years with the Pittsburgh Pirates. Parts of other seasons: Cubs, Cardinals, Yankees, Rockies, Reds. His highest WAR with the team was the Cardinals, apparently, 3.3 in 2004. But yeah, Tony Womack, parts of those teams. He led Major League Baseball in steals 3 times. He had up to 72 steals.
Yeah.
He also had 14 triples, which led the National League in 2000. Just a really fast second baseman, clearly. And then, he was on that 2001 World Series team for the Arizona Diamondbacks. So I'm sure he's very fondly remembered in the Phoenix general area. But Tony Womack, it's a good opportunity to remember Tony Womack.
Yeah,
so
good
not?
one. I mean, when I arrived in University of Pittsburgh to start college, Tony Womack was on the Pirates, and so that was my kind of secondary team to follow there in like 1998 or so, 97, 98, when I was a freshman at college.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember Tony Womack from way back then.
Yeah, it's funny bringing up him leading the league in steals 3 times, and I brought this up earlier with Josiah Ragsdale. I kind of touched on it, that it felt like with all the rules changes, we were seeing steals go up, and now it's starting to crest a little bit, and we might not even get 50 steals this year, 60 steals this year in Major League Baseball. So to look at his page and see 60, 58, 72, it's just it warms my old heart in a little bit.
Your old heart.
My old heart. Yeah, my old heart. I was 9 years old when he did that. Led the league with 72 steals. All right, so that's my team. I'm not going to spin the wheel
You're not gonna spin?
because now you're a Mariners fan. So I'm going to make you
right.
remember a Mariner. We're going to bring it back to the top of the, not a Harwich Mariner,
Yeah.
a Seattle Mariner.
Yeah, I am a Harwich Mariner fan, but the Mariners, when I think about just players in general, a lot of the time my mind goes back to the guys whose baseball cards I obsessed over, which was literally every guy, but just that era when I obsessed over baseball cards. So a couple guys of the 80s Mariners spring to mind. How about, and I'm gonna have to look them up here because I don't remember a lot, but how about Ken Phelps? Ken Phelps. There he is, Ken Phelps.
Ken Phelps with the Mariners from 83 to 88
Yeah.
when he moved to the Yankees.
Yeah, and had a power guy. I think that's what I remember about him. In the 80s, outside of that 87 season where everything kind of went a little haywire with Andre Dawson smacking dingers and Mark McGuire's rookie season. In the 80s, I would always look at these baseball cards and it would have like the top 10 home run leaders in each league, and you only really needed a solid 25 or so to get on the leaderboard. And I think Ken Phelps was one of those fringe guys and kind of home run leaders. Yeah, he had 24 in 1984, 24 in 1986, 27 in 87, 24 in 88, split between the Mariners and the Yankees. So it came kind of a mid-range bopper there in the mid to late 80s, early 90s. And that is who I remember. Good old Ken Phelps.
Ken Phelps was traded by the Mariners to the Yankees for a player to be named later, Rick Balabon and Jay Buhner.
Wow. So he
If Tyler was on the show right now, and as he's editing this podcast, if he wants to edit in his own screams, he is welcome to do so. But Jay Buhner's trade from the Yankees to the Mariners was a very popular episode of Seinfeld, in which George's father is yelling at Steinbrenner for trading Buhner. And we all know who Jay Buhner became with the Seattle Mariners. But yeah, Phelps, I think the line is something like, they told me he had power. So everything you're saying is true.
Oh, I forgot. He was referenced in that.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about that in the Seinfeld context. Yeah. So Ken Phelps, he lives a little larger because of an iconic pop culture reference. There you go.
There you go. I just wanted to make sure that was true before we were. Well, Ben, thank you for everything on this episode. Thank you again to Josiah Ragsdale. Thank you to Tyler for editing this and slapping it together and making it sound better. We'll be back with you next week on the show before the show.